So this right here, gang, this right here, what I see, this mass of Sima Yis, and yes, I'm saying Sima Yi, not Rhaenys or Rhaenys. I don't know how to pronounce it. I've heard both ways from people in the community, so I don't know. But all these Sima Yis bring me to the extra thing that I wanted to talk about in the FGO stream today that we're going to talk about while we're farming. I'm sure a lot of you who have been following me for a fairly long time, ever since I started, you know, popping up on Twitter even and stuff like that, you all know I am a Three Kingdoms fanboy. I really, really am. I will try to play every single Three Kingdoms thing that crosses my path. Dynasty Warriors games, the Romance of the Three Kingdoms Grand Strategy game. I think I've got several hundred hours on Total War Three Kingdoms right now. I love Three Kingdoms. I love the Three Kingdoms period of ancient China. It's great. Guan Yu fanboy. Yes, I have a statue of Guan Yu downstairs that I should have brought up for this stream specifically, but I forgot. So we're just gonna keep it at that. But this brings me to my topic. I want to talk about today. We need more Three Kingdom servants in Fate Grand Order. I know Chenggong is on the horizon, and that is fantastic. But we need more. It is a very, very big piece of fiction. It is a very, very important piece of fiction. And I am actually legitimately upset that the Dynasty Warriors Hong Kong live action movie isn't even enjoyed by people like myself who really enjoy Dynasty Warriors. It's not. Like, it's going to lose a lot of money. It's not good. Even people who are like, I just came to watch cheesy CGI and Dynasty Warrior style and all that, think it's bad. So that's a shame. But we can make Three Kingdoms really, really good in Fate Grand Order. We just have to put in some of the proper characters. I did a video like this a long time ago when I was working with a different channel, but now I'm by myself. I've had an opportunity to revise my list a little bit. So I want to give you guys 5, because it's a fantastic lucky number, Three Kingdoms characters I think belong in Fate Grand Order. And I'm going to turn down the audio of this stream just so I can properly elaborate on these characters to you. So to start with, I really think with, of course, Sima Yi in the game right now, I think a fantastic inclusion to that would be Sima Zhao. And if you're watching this on YouTube or later, then you are seeing either like Dynasty Warriors or Romance of the Three Kingdoms art for this character, or whatever I think looks cooler. So Sima Zhao. Now, Sima Zhao is a fairly interesting figure that really didn't like get a lot of prominence in media and all that recently, since that was like on the downslope of the Three Kingdoms era and we were getting into the Jin dynasty. So like Sima Yi seized control of Wei, which was the dominant kingdom at the time, and then ended up manipulating it in order to form his own kingdom. He was able to partake in a disastrous campaign against Shu, where he managed to drive off a night raid on his camp led by the Shu forces. And even though the campaign was a failure, he was recognized as a very, very powerful and potent general. What is important about him in the mythology is that there was a surprise attack to essentially try to take out the Sima family. And unfortunately, Sima Shi died after getting an eye illness exaggerated after that. So Sima Zhao had to go ahead and succeed him. Sima Zhao took part in the huge conquest of Shu, as well as the rebellion by the general Zhang Hui. And he was granted the title King of Jin on the 2nd of May, 264. So he was basically the final precursor leading into the Jin dynasty. He's a very, very important figure. And I just really think having Sima Yi be able to have that interaction with his descendant, see that all of his plans actually ended up coming to fruition, would be fantastic. I think that's a fantastic potential for more character and world building in Fate Grand Order. That's really my only, like, later in the era general I want to mention, but I think Sima Zhao would be a fantastic addition. Number 4 is probably, no, definitely, we'll say definitely, the most villainous figure. Hey, we're fighting Super Red Hair Man. That ends up working out. The most villainous figure outside of Lo Bu, and I think there could be potential for some very interesting very interesting interactions with Lo Bu, and that is Dong Zhuo. Now, Lo Bu did initially serve Dong Zhuo, and Lo Bu did ultimately, like, lead a rebellion against Dong Zhuo, which resulted in his death. Dong Zhuo was an absolute tyrant. Let's make that perfectly clear. He was cruel, he was ruthless, to the point that a bunch of warlords ended up mounting a campaign against him, and he was ultimately forced to flee. And he ended up fleeing from the main capital of Luoyang, and this is the biggest thing he's famous for that you could work into his noble phantasm. He burned the capital to the ground and took all of its riches before relocating. Completely no regard for the imperial palace, the capital, none of that. He does end up getting assassinated in 192 by his subordinate Lo Bu after a plot that was orchestrated by Minister Wang Yun. But having such a monstrous, villainous figure from the Three Kingdoms period in Fate Grand Order would be absolutely insane. You could have a noble phantasm that is the sacking of Luoyang, because that is just such an important part of Dong Zhuo's legend. I really, really do feel that having a character that's so much surrounding the earliest Three Kingdoms mythology, the most important and well-known portion of the Three Kingdoms mythology, the Battle of Hulao Gate and that whole campaign, I think that'd be a magnificent addition. Number 3 has to be Zhao Yun. Zhao Yun needs to be in this game. He's one of the most like deified figures of the Three Kingdoms period. He served in the Shu army. He was one of the 5 Tiger Generals, which is the highest title that ever existed in Shu, and there is a legend that's attributed to him that I think really cements his place in the mythology and sort of really marks him as a huge figure of the Three Kingdoms period. Now, the legend goes, and I'm pretty sure this is fabricated, but the legend goes that when Liu Bei was fleeing at one of the lowest points in his entire ruling career, that his son was left behind in one of the cities that was occupied by Wei's forces. Wei was pursuing them, Cao Cao was pursuing them, and there was just like, hey, you know, I don't want to leave my son, but I don't know what I can do. The legend goes that Zhao Yun by himself charged directly through the enemy lines in order to save Liu Bei's son and bring him back to him. He charged through the lines entirely by himself, held off all of these soldiers, and ended up rescuing that child. That is just like the biggest part of his legend from the Battle of Chongbong. But there is so much that he did in the later Han Zhang campaign on top of that, and I can't just keep going into it because I'm going to ramble forever. But that one specific event I feel like would cement Zhao Yun into the Throne of Heroes. Number 2, my friends. We've got to talk about number 2. It is Cao Cao. Cao Cao, King of Wei, needs to be in this game. He is such a magnificent, larger-than-life figure, probably one of, if not the true greatest ruler out of this entire period. Even though he ultimately passed away before he could achieve his ambitions, I think he was just straight up greater than Sun Quan, greater than Liu Bei, greater than Sima Yi, even after the throne was usurped after that. Because Cao Cao was long dead, there was nothing to do. But the man, even though he was never an emperor in his lifetime, he ended up doing a lot of great things. Now, he's a complicated figure where you could go one of both ways. So in some subsequent literature, he is portrayed as a cruel and merciless tyrant. So it really depends on the literature, the viewpoint you're looking from. In some literature, he is portrayed as that. But in some literature, he's also praised as a brilliant ruler, a military genius with unparalleled charisma that treats all of his subordinates like they're his own flesh and blood. And I choose in my mind to go with that latter perception of Cao Cao. I think that would just be an absolutely magnificent addition. You could straight up do him as a caster or a ruler and give him his proponents for military strategy, because one of the biggest things Cao Cao did was he wrote a bunch of remarks to war journals. He wrote remarks about the art of war. He was skilled in poetry, calligraphy, martial arts. He was just straight up a brilliant man that was able to take his position of fertile farmland with plenty of people to help build a kingdom from, and was able to just use that to expand out. He ended up using his subordinates fairly well to completely conquer the northern plains of China, and just use that as a foothold to create the true bedrock for the dynasty that would unite the land, even if it wasn't his own. So Cao Cao, for setting that groundwork, I feel like is one of the most magnificent characters you could add to Fate Grand Order in that regard. You all know who number one is. You all know. You just know. You just know. Why am I even talking about this? You all just know. It is not only my most wanted character from the Three Kingdoms period, but it is the character I want to see the most in Fate Grand Order period. And honestly, a historical figure I truly admire and try to model my life after. And that is Guan Yu, the man with the magnificent beard. Guan Yu is a truly brilliant figure. He is in some circles still regarded as a bodhisattva in Buddhism, a paragon of loyalty and chivalry and brotherhood. But not only that, Guan Yu is considered by many to be if not the god of war. Guan Yu's life has just been completely and utterly lionized, and he was deified after the Shu dynasty fell. Oh man, just the things this man has done. Let me go ahead and just share with you some legends about Guan Yu that we could go ahead and take and adapt into this as I go ahead and use riders on a saber note. I'm sorry. But let's go ahead and let's adapt some of these. Some say that his halberd that he used was several hundred pounds. We're talking like a 250-pound halberd that he carried around with him. Now that's probably exaggerated, but it is just how they present the absurdity of this man. He was known for being truly loyal and repaying whatever was due to him. So he would definitely be in the good alignment. Let's just start right there. In order to repay Cao Cao's hospitality when he served underneath him, he went out onto the battlefield and he saw the powerful enemy general Yan Liang, who could of course be recognized by the parasol he carried into battle with him. And he just rode on through the fray into that battle, and in one mighty swing of his halberd decapitated Yan Liang and returned his head to Cao Cao. Some would even say that he is the main reason that Cao Cao won his northern campaign, a true architect of what ended up becoming the future of China. Now, unfortunately, Guan Yu also probably one of the biggest catalysts to the downfall of Shu. When he was betrayed by Wu at the Battle of Fawn Castle, he was captured and executed. And some media outlets portray the rage of Liu Bei over losing one of his sworn brothers. This is what ultimately led to angry clashes in the south that led to Wei ending up completely taking over the southern plains. So not only is Guan Yu a figure that did a lot in his life, but some would even say his death had a profound effect on the history of one of the most storied countries on the planet. Guan Yu is a truly massive, massive figure. And he's a figure I honestly recommend you look into, you read about, and you just learn about, because there's so many stories surrounding his life that I cannot fit into a reasonable amount of time to talk with you guys about. But I really feel like he, more than anybody, deserves not only a spot in this game, but more stuff about his life. He really needs it. But I mean, if any of you are familiar with the Three Kingdoms period, who do you think belongs in this game? I need you all to tell me. Of course, it can't be anyone that's already in the game, so no Lo Bu, no Red Hair, no Chen Gong, no Zhuge Liang, no Sima Yi. I mean, we've got 5 representatives, but there's hundreds of characters from the Three Kingdoms mythology. So who do you think would belong in there? Tell me.